Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Hong Kong Horror. I'm your narrator, Simon. Before I start this episode, I just want to say that some of the concepts that we're going to cover tonight are on the darker and heavier side. So please, viewers' discretion is advised. Some of you have been asking me to cover some of Hong Kong's more infamous ghost stories. So today, I want to take you across the water to a small, outlying island called Cheung Chau. Personally, I love visiting Cheung Chau. I've been there a few times, mostly for the food. They have this famous local shop that makes the most incredible mango mochi, Chinese mochi. It's huge, sweet, and honestly, every time I'm back in Hong Kong, I take the ferry over just to eat one. You can't miss it. It's practically a landmark on the island. But here's the thing, I've always treated it as a day trip. I go for the food, walk around the beach, and then I go home. I've never spent the night there, and after tonight's story, you might understand why. Aside from the mochi, Cheung Chau is known for something much darker. You know about Japan's Okigahara forest, right? The infamous forest where people wander into to end their own lives. Well, Cheung Chau is Hong Kong's residential version of that. In the late 1990s and early 2000s, this island became the epicenter for people looking to end their lives, specifically through charcoal burning. It got so bad that the local community had to intervene. It wasn't just a rumor. Local shops actually stopped selling charcoal to anyone who didn't look like a local resident or who was renting a holiday apartment alone. And at the center of all the deaths and darkness, one specific location stood out above the rest. Bella Vista Villa. This estate has a dark reputation that is well earned. It has the word villa in its name, but it's not actually a single mansion or private villa like you would think. It's pretty much a residential complex made up of many apartment units. A lot of residential apartment complexes have the word villa in it. This is pretty common in Hong Kong. Based on both police records and local folklore, Bella Vista is statistically one of the darkest locations in all of Hong Kong. And it all started with one woman back in June of 1989. Now, this is a very famous urban legend in Hong Kong, so some of you might have heard it before. But for those of you who haven't, I want to take you back to that summer and share what I know about this place in my usual Hong Kong horror style. As always, stick around till the end, where we're going to break down the events from a Chinese cultural perspective and understand exactly how Cheung Chau acquired such infamous energy. So turn down the lights, get comfortable, and let's dive right into this one. It was June of 1989. The summer humidity in Cheung Chau was suffocating, the kind of heat that sticks to your skin. Bella Vista Villa was bustling with families, couples, and students enjoying the break. But amidst the noise and laughter, one woman and her son arrived in total silence. Her name was Zheng Boling. She was in her 30s, reserved, and noticeably quiet. She rented a unit near the edge of Dongwan Wingtan, Tonwan Beach, specifically Unit Block 15C. To the landlord, she appeared to be just another mother treating her 14-year-old son to a seaside getaway. But witnesses later recalled that something about her felt off. She gave only one-worded answers, offering none of the excitement you expect to see from someone going on vacation. She carried nothing but a small suitcase and a look in her eye that was completely dead. It was rumored that she was going through a divorce. Her husband had an affair with another woman and left her behind. But she didn't want to just escape her pain. She wanted to ensure that her husband never knew peace again. In her mind, simple death was too easy for him. She wanted to haunt him forever. Inside that small concrete holiday flat, she began a ritual known in Chinese folklore as creating a Lai Guai, a spirit of pure vengeance. There's a belief that if a person dies wearing all red, their soul cannot move on easily. Instead, their yang energy burns too fiercely to fade away. They don't become a normal wandering ghost. One. They transform into something much more dangerous, something we call like white. These are not just sad spirits. These are rage-filled entities created by unresolved injustice and anchored by obsession. Unlike most spirits, a like white usually retains its full memory. It knows exactly who wronged it. They can interact physically with the living and are known to cause illness, accidents, or even madness. They feed off fear, and they are much, much harder to exorcise than normal ghosts. First, she turned on her son. Even at 14 years old, he trusted his mother implicitly. She ended his life right there in the living room. Some legends say she drugged him with poison. Others claim she smothered him in his sleep. But her goal was absolute. She wanted to sever her husband's bloodline completely. Then, she opened up her suitcase and took out a keipo, a traditional Chinese dress for women. It was bright red. She painted her lips crimson. She painted her fingernails to match. Finally, she slipped her feet into a pair of embroidered red shoes, so far high. She then threw a rope over the beam in the living room and kicked the chair away. Ever since that chilling incident, the atmosphere at Bella Vista Villa changed forever. Over the years, guests have reported countless strange events. It's believed by many that this woman's spirit never left, that she haunts the villas and the surrounding beach to this day. Even worse, locals believe her dark influence acted like a magnet, pulling others to the island to share her tragic fate. Late at night, some residents in the area reported hearing the sound of shoes walking on tiled floors outside their units. Click, clack, click, clack. It sounded like old-fashioned heels, but when they opened the door to look, the sound stops immediately. The path is empty, but the moment they close the door, the clicking starts again, getting closer. The most terrifying reports comes from people walking along the beach at night, looking back at the villas. On the upper floor balconies, people have reported seeing a woman standing perfectly still. She's wearing a red keipo. She doesn't have a face, just a blur of pale skin and black hair. She just stands there, not looking at the view, but looking down at the people passing by. Over the years, this estate has earned a grim reputation as a magnet for tragedy. While this 1989 incident with the mother and son was the first, it certainly wasn't the last. Based on historical records, the death toll at Bella Vista has been staggering. From 1989 through the early 2000s alone, more than 20 deaths were reported, mostly by charcoal burning. Sometimes, these tragic ends come in pairs or even in groups, and the darkness didn't stay contained to Unit 15C. It spread throughout the entire estate. By 2011, at least 26 different units had become scenes of failed attempts of people attempting to take their own lives. Then, as recent as January 2022, the estate made headlines again. A 54-year-old woman was found dead in one of the units, but instead of the usual signs of charcoal burning, her neck showed suspicious injuries. Her 43-year-old boyfriend was arrested, marking one of the rare times a documented homicide occurred here, rather than a case of self-inflicted harm. While the details of that investigation remain murky, the incident reinforced what everyone on Cheung Chau already knew, that at Bella Vista, the line between life and death is dangerously thin. Because so many units were rented by young couples or individuals in distress, the locals gave the area a dark nickname, the Charcoal Resort. Years have passed now since the tragedy of 1989. The horror had faded into a local legend. There was another story revolving around the area. One Saturday night, a group of 4 young men, 4 university students, were out celebrating near the Cheung Chau ferry pier. They were at a Dai Pai Dong, an open-air food stall. The night was alive with the clamor of sizzling woks, clinking beer bottles, and the laughter of families and tourists alike. And the boys were laughing louder than most, joking about failed tests, ex-girlfriends, and which girl in class had the best legs. Their table was full of dishes: salt and pepper squid, fried rice, and stir-fried clams and black bean sauce. And the boys dug in with a carefree appetite of youth, entirely absorbed in the noise and warmth around them. Suddenly, one of the boys, let's call him Aming, stopped laughing. He had been the loudest of them all the entire night, broad-shouldered and confident, always at the center of the jokes. But suddenly, he went still. His chopsticks slipped from his fingers and clattered against the plastic table. At first, the others laughed nervously, thinking he was joking, or maybe choking. But when they looked at him properly, their laughter died. His posture had collapsed inward, his shoulders curling as if trying to make himself smaller. His head tilted to the side at an unnatural angle, and his eyes were fixed on the bowl of rice in front of him with a blank, distant stare. His friends looked at him. Ming, Aming, you okay? Aming didn't answer. The air around the table seemed to get a little colder. The noise at the restaurant faded into a dull hum. When Aming opened his mouth, the voice that came out wasn't his deep, rough voice. It was high. It resembled the voice of a younger boy. I don't want to eat this. 我都唔想食呢啲嘢. The voice whined. Aming's hand reached out and pushed away the beer bottle like a petulant child. It tastes bad. His friends froze. Aming, stop playing around. It's not funny. Aming looked up. His eyes were wide, filled with a confusion and fear that a 20-year-old shouldn't have. He looked at his friends, but he didn't recognize them. He looked past them, scanning the crowd desperately. I want to find my mommy, the voice whimpered, tears beginning to well up in Aming's grown-up eyes. She said she was just changing her clothes. She said she would be right back. Where is she? It's so dark in here. Panic set in. One friend grabbed Aming's shoulder and shook him violently. Aming, hey Sana, wake up. Look at me. Aming gasped, his body jerking as if he had been pulled out of deep water. He blinked rapidly, the childlike expression vanishing, replaced by exhaustion. He looked around the table, bewildered. Guys, why are you looking at me like that? Did I fall asleep? He had no memory of the last 5 minutes, but he complained of a deep, aching cold in his bones that the hot summer night couldn't thaw. He told his friends he felt a crushing sadness in his chest, a feeling of being abandoned that he couldn't explain. The locals whispered about it the next day. They believe the woman succeeded in her ritual to become a powerful spirit. But in that rage, she forgot the son she murdered to get there. It's believed that this boy's spirit is still trapped on Cheung Chau, confused and alone. He wanders the street, jumping into bodies of young men, searching for his mother, who put on a red dress and left him behind in the dark. Cheung Chau and Bella Vista is a location steeped in tragedy, folklore, and unsettling reports of paranormal activity. Many guests who rent here have fled their units mid-stay. I've actually been outside this building before, and it's actually a lot smaller than I expected, but the air definitely seemed heavier, even from the outside. I think it's because I knew the history of this place when I went to see it, but I definitely felt a little bit creeped out. For any of you listening that are from the area, have you ever experienced anything yourself? If you go to Cheung Chau today, this estate is still there. You can look it up on any map. It's still officially named Bella Vista Villa. It hasn't been demolished, and the name still hasn't been changed. Even today, you can still book a room here, but they're not a hotel. They're private apartment units listed on platforms like Airbnb, available for short-term stays. Some of you might be thinking, so why didn't they just rebrand or change its name after all these dark incidents? That's a very good question because honestly, I had the same thought. I don't have an official answer as to why they haven't changed their name, but I would imagine that the estate's horror reputation made it a local landmark, which paradoxically increases its notoriety. I can see the haunted reputation as a unique selling point for thrill seekers and paranormal enthusiasts. Also, it's an administrative nightmare and legal hassle. Many other properties or hotels with tragic histories often still keep their names in Hong Kong. So, Hong Kong horror family, what do you think happened here in Cheung Chau to give it such a dark history? Please pause the video here and let me know what you think in the comments below. Alright, so what do I think happened here from a Chinese cultural perspective? Why does this estate attract so many deaths and tragedies? I think it's very possible that the original spirit from 1989 is still lingering and anchored to the property, continuing to influence the estate, feeding off the fear, and interacting subtly with the living. Her anger was so extreme that it could imprint onto the property itself, making it a hotspot for tragedy and death. Also, over the years, Bella Vista Villa became the site of dozens of deaths. In Chinese spiritual thought, places where multiple deaths occur can accumulate yin energy. These new spirits may interact or resonate with the original spirit, amplifying the villa's dark magnetism. Locals and folklore often describe a phenomenon where tragic places attract more tragedy. In cultural terms, the original spirit's presence anchors the location spiritually. Additional deaths feed the existing energy, reinforcing the villa's malevolent reputation. In other words, that first spirit may have set the stage, but the constant deaths sustain and grow the darkness. I personally think it's a combination of the original ghost herself, combined with the cumulative effect of many additional spirits that came after her. This property villa is spiritually charged with tragedy, and the spirits of subsequent victims coexist, creating a complex spiritual ecosystem. This explains why people continue to report eerie sensations, unexplained noises, and ghost sightings decades after that first tragedy. It's not just the original spirit haunting the property anymore, it's multiple. So, how exactly does this magnet effect work? From a Chinese cultural and folklore perspective, this magnet effect is tied to the way spiritual energy, yin and yang, interacts with the living world. Yin energy is associated with death, sorrow, coldness, and stagnation. And when a location experiences reported tragic deaths, especially violent or unnatural ones, it absorbs this yin energy. This energy is not static. It radiates outward, subtly influencing anyone who enters the space. So the more tragedy that occurs in a place, the heavier the yin energy, making it a kind of a spiritual hotspot. It's kind of like a snowball effect. The more people that die here, the more people will die. Chinese folklore emphasizes the connection between emotion and spiritual energy. So places where people die in despair, anger, or fear carry those emotions forward, where other vulnerable individuals entering the space may unknowingly resonate with that energy, increasing the chance of accidents, illness, and the desire of ending one's own life. Over time, this resonance turns the location into a magnet for tragedy because the emotional signature is persistent. Another thing that I wanted to talk about here is defies, substitution death. It's believed that spirits of people who died violently, unjustly, or by ending their own life become trapped in a limbo state. They have trouble reincarnating, entering the underworld for judgment, and in general, have trouble moving on. So, sometimes, they try to find a replacement. What it means is exactly that. They will try to find a living person to take their place so that they can move on. They will target people who are in a weaker mental state, so people who are lonely, grieving, stressed, or mentally exhausted. They will then amplify that sadness and deepen these hopeless thoughts to create intrusive despair. They're pretty much egging these targeted people on to die, usually in the same fashion that the original spirit perished. But the thing is, substitution death is often a false escape. In old beliefs, spirits think if someone replaces me, I can leave. But spiritually, this is considered self-deception. Why? Because the original karma is still unresolved. The resentment, yunhei, is still there. Now, they've caused another death, adding a new sin. So instead of freedom, their burden increases. From a traditional Chinese folklore and religious perspective, substitution death does not truly work. It's believed to be a myth the spirits tell themselves, and not a true way out. Karma cannot be transferred. In Taoist and Buddhist belief, you cannot pass your karma to someone else. Your suffering comes from your actions, your emotions, and unresolved attachments. Causing someone else to die only adds more karma. It doesn't erase the old one. It's like trying to cure poison with more poison. This is how the death rate in this estate snowballed. In Chinese belief, Doi Tai Se was supposed to be an escape, a way for a trapped spirit to finally move on. But the old teachings say something much darker. You can't escape suffering by passing it on to someone else. Pain doesn't disappear, it multiplies. This is why haunted places don't heal. They grow heavier. One tragedy becomes 2, 2 becomes 10. And before anyone notices, an entire location is soaked in stories of loss. I know, there are a lot of heavy concepts that I've covered tonight. I just want to close with this. If anyone listening is carrying thoughts they're afraid to say out loud, I want you to know this. You are not broken, and you are not alone. Many of us are quietly sitting on the same boat. Pain can feel endless when you're inside of it. The feelings, even the heaviest ones, are not permanent. Your story isn't finished yet. There are still people who haven't met you yet. Moments you haven't lived yet. Versions of yourself you haven't become yet. Staying here, even when it's hard, is an act of courage. So please, let's all fight hard to stay here together till the end. Please don't walk this dark path alone. Let someone hold the weight with you. You deserve care, understanding, and a future that hasn't arrived yet. With that said, so would I say that Bella Vista is a dangerous place for everyone? No, I wouldn't say that. Bella Vista is definitely considered a spiritually heavy place, but I wouldn't say that it's dangerous for everyone that goes there. There are tons of people that visit, pass by, or even stay there with nothing happening to them. I would say that this place will affect people differently. For people who are mentally grounded and skeptical, they probably will be less affected. But I would avoid this place if I were emotionally distressed, grieving, or spiritually open. Many locals say that passing by is fine, but they would not stay overnight because they see it as an unnecessary risk. So if any of you plan to check this place out in the future, I would just advise caution if you plan to stay there overnight. Many people still stay here nowadays with no strange occurrences, but it all depends on the individual and how sensitive you are to these things. Like with any place with a painful history, just approach it from a place of caution and respect. Thank you, Hong Kong Horror family, for making it all the way to this point of the video. I hope you all enjoyed this week's episode. Looking forward to speaking with you again next week. Stay safe and good night.